Hello world. To build a free energy machine, you need to have something which you don't have to apply work to make it do something, right? So the pyramid itself, I think, is a stellar example of a free energy machine. First off, to this very day, it is still conducting static electricity. In fact, it happens so much that they've gone ahead and put a little grounding rod on the top of there because it keeps acting like a big grounding rod on its own and asking for lightning to hit it. But when we look at the Great Giza Pyramid, you notice that the 35th level has a row or two that are approximately twice as high as any other of the steps. Well, I can't say any other of the steps, because I believe there's one other section where it's about 2/3 as high as the other ones. But these two steps, what they are doing is they are taking the static electricity, which is building up at the upper level, and making it so it can't work its way to ground. It gets to a point where it has to generate enough to jump that gap to get to the next level. And in doing so, it's creating a high energy bubble on the surface of the Great Giza Pyramid. Now that a high energy bubble, first off, acts like a big, huge zap-me rod to static electricity. But to us, we dismiss it and put a little grounding rod on there and say, ooh, go away. But if it was, several thousand years ago, and we did nothing else, if we did nothing else, we could run a copper wire. Don't tell me they didn't have metals. Run a copper wire from somewhere up here, bring it down, stick a copper wire into the ground, put one end of that into a bowl of solution and the other end of this onto another bowl, and you could do electroplating, you could do colloidal saturation of different metals into the water, like colloidal silver, colloidal gold, things like that. That's just a small scale. Now, I'm not sure what sort of voltage you'd get from that particular thing, but we're going to step it up. We're going to plus it, as Walt would say. We're going to take that, and instead of just grounding it to ground, we're going to have some fun with it. What they do is they pull it down a pure hydrogen shaft, which comes past the center of the pyramid, and they join it on this side of the pyramid. Now, the sides of the pyramids come into play when you're looking at the math of it, but I'm just keeping it in line for how it works. Join it with water, bring it out to this side of the equation. If you draw a line down the middle, there is an equation at play. And then you're going to bring it, I'm just going to draw this section and then I'll explain it more after I draw it. You got a pool here that goes past the center a tiny bit. You got your queen's chamber, hallway. You got a deeper pool here, a niche here. You got your step. We'll get to that in a second. So what's happening is you're creating water in this chamber. And you're going to say, how am I creating water? I'm going to tell you to quickly watch Magic with Magnetism System Down Under and the Pyramid System. And you'll see the flow. Or you can watch some of my videos where I say, just add water. I think the just add water video, which is self-titled, is pretty good flow of the system. And that even shows real pictures of the system. But you're taking the static electricity, you're bonding it with water. You're in the grand gallery, they're capturing any evaporation, condensing it on the side, drips down into the system. And all that water is going to drip down. Water flows downhill. That's what it does. So that water, which is energized, it was created, maintained, and infused with the static electricity, which is up at this upper level, is then brought down into the system after it's captured in the water and brought down into the system. Because when it pools down here, it's a deeper pool on this side, more water is going to be on this side of the equation. That's going to pull all that static electricity, kind of confining it into this area. Now, some of it's going to be in this area, and that part of it's going to get lost. But even if that static electricity gets lost, it's getting lost within the system, is going to be gobbled up by a different droplet of water, and it's still going to be brought down to this level, and it's still based on what's happening and how there's a deeper pool over here. That static electricity is going to eventually work its way into here, where enough of it eventually gets here, where instead of it just going down that wire and doing a little electrolysis, it eventually gets to where it arcs out of the water with such a great force that it goes through 5 inches of rock to the conduit that's on the other side of the wall of the Queen's chamber. And eventually, that over years of doing that, that causes a crack in the wall where that electricity has been zapping through there for centuries, and it causes an arc-shaped crack. And that arc-shaped crack is what led us to drill a hole through it to find out there was a conduit there, then drill a big hole in the wall and find out there was a big conduit there, and then send robots up there, and then somebody with some sonar got the bright idea to look for a conduit on the other side, and they found the conduit that goes up this way. Now, neither of those conduits connected to the room, and both of those conduits, this one teased the electricity, and this one captured the electricity. And you can see how in the lower system video that I do, or actually how it captured it in the pressure to tap video. So this is how we are getting this. Now, this water is constantly flowing down, but as the water is constantly flowing down, it comes into the system and it fills this. It's not just going to keep filling and filling and filling. There is a flow valve. It's on this side. They call it the well shaft, and that goes into the grotto, which then feeds down into the system down under, and into the subterranean chamber. And this is the down shaft there, 3 granite rocks. So I'll quickly go over these 3, I say granite rocks, but they're really granite zones. If you look at them in the down shaft, you have a granite plug that went around it, and then if I remember correctly, it's got like a zone, like funky rocks. But either way, you can see that there are separate zones. Each one of these rocks is within its own zone. And what that's doing is that's going to make its resistance for any of the static electricity, which is at this spot within the system, to not want to travel down that corridor because it sees great resistance. Instead, that same water is taunted to fill the pool, and the static electricity itself is taunted to go to this side as opposed to down that shaft because of the resistance factor, and there's nowhere to go. And you can get into why there's nowhere to go when you watch the system down under. It'll expand on that, but that is the general flow of my free energy machine, which somebody else created several thousand years ago, and a lot of people just dismiss as a pile of rock in the middle of the desert. Thank you.